shit to bet on.
Good morning and welcome to another episode of Let's Bet It. It is week 11 in the NFL. Man, does time fly. We got a fun show for you today. I got my two boys hanging out with me, Andrew Ortenberg and Jim Monis. And guys, this is going to be a really fun show. We got a lot of picks to get to. But first, subscribe to the Pickswise YouTube channel. Drop us comments. This is a big show because if you comment correctly and smartly or ask a question correctly and smartly, you're going to get $500, which is a lot of money. So be sure to comment. Again, subscribe to the YouTube channel as well. Drop us your questions. We will answer them live on the show. Also, make sure to download the Pickswise app. Get all the good picks. I know AO's got some crazy college basketball NBA parlay that he's probably going to put out later. If you're not on the app, you won't be able to see those amazing parlays and all the great picks, all the great content that we put out every day. It's on the Apple Store and also on Google Play. But without further ado, we have a lot of games to get to on the NFL card today. So let's bet it. And let's start with the reality TV of the day. And Jim Monis, I know this is probably your favorite game of the day just because not only do you love reality TV, but you really love Cam Newton, right? I know you've got some very interesting things to say about Cam Newton. It's Washington at Carolina. We saw this line firm up a little bit towards the football team, Jim. Carolina was laying 3.5. Now it's back to 3. When you look at this game, it's a Ron Rivera revenge game. It's a Taylor Heineke revenge game. It's a Cam Newton sequel. Well, how do you dissect all of the different drama, all the angles that are going to take place in Carolina today?
We love the big egos in this game. I mean, Rivera hasn't had a lot of success without Cam Newton as his quarterback. But don't tell him that. I promise you, he wants to show everybody, no, we were good because of me on defense and what I built in Carolina around Cam Newton, where Cam is coming back saying, here I come. We saw what he did last week. Very limited action, but he was made it about himself, which it's so hard to want him as your starting quarterback sometimes because of those antics. You know, you want your quarterback just to, be about the team all the time, but you can't argue with Cam's success and what he's done as a player when he turned Carolina around. Let's face it. It was the right pick for them, but I can't wait to see how this game plays out because I think Ron Rivera is going to make Cam beat him today. And that's why I'm on the Washington football team. I don't think Cam can throw down the field. And they've proven that this year. Carolina is 31st in yards per attempt. They do not throw the ball down the field. The Redskins can actually stop the run, so they can make Cam beat them. This game's going to be fascinating. I'm hoping that 3.5. I'm hoping Washington wins outright so we don't have to sweat that, getting that hook. But this game has this spread has 3 written all over it.
Ayo, are you back? Are you back? Or what do you think about this game, man?
Yeah, I mean, I agree with a lot of Jim's analysis. That's why I couldn't quite get myself there to bet Washington. I leaned Washington, but I like the under a lot in this game. I took 43.5. I think it might be like 43 now. I think a lot of the reasons you laid out, it's one, I like taking the unders in games where there's a lot of familiarity between, it's like Rivera, right. Cam Newton went against him in practice every single day. If anybody knows Ron Rivera's weaknesses, it's the same kind of effect we saw earlier in the season with Bill Belichick and Tom Brady. I was thinking, if anyone's going to be able to put together a decent game plan to slow down Tom Brady, and he did. I think Tom Brady had one of his worst games in the season. Granted, there was some weather, and slowing down Cam Newton's a lot easier than slowing down Tom Brady. So I think Rivera will have some success there. Cam, I mean, there's no way he knows the full playbook or whatever. This is not a system he was fully familiar in. It's not like this was he picked up right where he left off. This is a completely new system that he's learning. Obviously, he's an upgrade over PJ Walker, so they're like, great, go, just run out there. But I don't think it's going to be too cohesive. I think that they're going to be running a lot of quick game. I imagine Christian McCaffrey is going to see a ton of volume. It's going to be having his old partner in crime back. And I think that Washington, Taylor Heineke, tip your cap to him. Loved seeing what he did last week against the Bucs. The Bucs defense, I mean, they're starting Pierre Desir, all these random guys in the secondary who may have been players 5 years ago. It's a whole different ball game going up against the Panthers secondary is so good that I think Stephon Gilmore is only playing like half the snaps. Like Stephon Gilmore is not even an every down player on this Panthers team because they have so many good cornerbacks. He was the defensive player of the year like 2 years ago. That's how good this Panthers secondary is. The Panthers pass rush is still really good. I think Heineke is going to come crashing down to earth here, and I think this one's going to be very low scoring. I think it's going to be very difficult for both offenses.
Some chat questions. One that's particularly good. If Washington's a good teaser spot, sure. From 3 to 9. Low total game. You know, you're not moving it through 3, but you're moving it off of 3 through 7. It's not the best teaser. You want the teaser to be through those key numbers. So 2.5, 1.5 through 3 through 7, but it's not a bad teaser leg. There's definitely worse teaser legs on the board this week. I will also add public's on Carolina here, and the line's gone against the public, and that is noteworthy. It hasn't moved through 3. If it gets down to 2.5, I would call it pretty significant reverse line movement. But it's noteworthy that the line has firmed up. We saw that hook evaporate this week for sure. I'll take it's a half a unit play on Washington for me, 3.5. Not one of my best bets of the week, but I had a feeling that the hook would go away, and it has, and we'll see if it continues to move towards Washington as we get down to 1 o'clock Eastern kick. Another 1 o'clock Eastern kick, Saints at Eagles. Now, this line's been very fascinating this week. And I don't think it's moved because of sharp action. I think it's moved because of injury news.
Right.
Not only Alvin Kamara, which really shouldn't move the line too much, but when both starting tackles are out, that will move a line. We saw this one move towards Philly. It opened at around a pick 'em, maybe Philly -1. Now it's basically up to 3. Jim, you have a ton of experience with this New Orleans team, obviously how they operate. This feels like a game that if the Saints can control tempo, they can keep this game close. I still have it as a teaser leg, but what are you looking at here? Saints at Eagles.
Yeah, there's certain coaches that are prepared to handle injuries, and this is one of the teams that can. They don't blink an eye on it. They're prepared for it. They have the guys that are going to replace these tackles today. I'm with you, Jared. It scares me with those guys being out. But these guys are veterans. Hurst, I think Jordan Mills will start at right tackle, I'm assuming. Those 2 guys have started in the league plenty. They're veteran players. They'll be prepared for this. Simeon has played pretty well. Sean Payton has not had to really hold back on the playbook at all. It hurts losing Kamara, but he'll adjust. He's good at that. The key is here. The Saints are 3-0 this year against the spread coming off a loss. I like that. And Philadelphia is only 26 on defense in quarterback sack percentage. So you're not getting this incredible pass rush team. If you can make Hurts beat you, and which I know New Orleans is so good against the run, make Hurts try to beat you down the field, I think you're going to be okay. And that's why I am going to take New Orleans today.
Eagles are terrible at home, AO. Does that change your pick at all in this game?
I mean, I'm not taking the Eagles. I'm on the under because I think this one at 43.5, and I think it's 42.5. Like you guys kind of laid it out already. I mean, obviously Kamara hurts. Obviously the 2 tackles hurt. You know what's funny is I agree with Jim. I think Trevor Simeon's actually played reasonably well. His stats don't look great. I mean, he's been dealing with an onslaught of drops, just an onslaught of drops.
Yeah.
I feel bad for the guy because it's man, long time to get another shot to be a starting opportunity, and then I think his first start they went out and dropped 11 passes or something. But I mean, I don't see any reason why that won't continue. It's not like the receivers got any better from last week or the week before. What's funny is I'm a huge Phillip Rivers fan. So when Jameis went down, I was immediately like, I've been having my fingers crossed. I was hoping that would happen so bad that Phil would come out of retirement, sign with the Saints. So I've been watching Simeon I've been rooting really hard against him because I was like, oh, I hope he face plants so that the Saints would be forced to go out and sign Phil. And so 2 weeks ago, his first start, I bet the Falcons +6 against the Saints because I was like, there's no way Trevor Simeon should be laying 6 points, which I still think is true. And the Falcons won and covered, but they did. But to my surprise, they did not win and cover because Trevor Simeon was awful.
Right.
It was a lot of other issues. But Simeon hasn't been bad, but the receivers, I mean, they just can't get any separation. I mean, last week against the Titans, somewhat underwhelming cornerbacks, still couldn't get any separation. They were trotting out Kevin White for a huge role. They just cut him this past week. I don't see the issue's getting much better with the both tackles out. The Eagles have been playing a bit better on defense. I mean, they did a pretty good job against the Broncos last week. But then on the flip side, I really don't see the Eagles having much success on offense because at the beginning of the season, the Eagles would not run the ball. Now they don't pass the ball. Nick Sirianni completely kind of adjusted. Now the game plan is, okay, we're only going to let Jalen Hurts throw 15 times per game. And we're just going to – the past few weeks, they've just been running it down everybody's throats. Works against the Broncos last week because the Broncos are decimated at linebacker and can't stop the run against anybody. Whole different ball game trying to run the ball down the Saints' throats. I don't think that's going to be successful at all. I think they might still try. Obviously, Miles Sanders coming back, so I think they still might try to establish the run. I don't think it's going to work. And Jalen Hurts has not been very good when he's turned into a drop-back passer. I think that's putting it kindly. I think he's been very bad when he's, the term gets thrown around a lot, like a one-read quarterback. I think Jalen Hurts really is a one-read quarterback of his first read's not open.
Run the ball.
The offense is screwed and grinds to a halt. So I think that this is another very low scoring. It's another low total, and it's another one I'm going under on. So.
Yeah, this one was, I mean, I'll be honest, when it was just Kamara being out, I loved it as a teaser leg because I thought we were going to keep it in that 1-2 range. Once the tackles got announced out, that kind of, made me concerned a little bit. But Jim, you've made some good points about the veterans, and I do think the coaching with Sean Payton, I mean, talk about a coaching mismatch, and we see this all the time. Payton against Sirianni. I think we all know who's going to be the better of those coaches. Yeah. I did tease the Eagles, I did tease the Saints through 3-7 earlier in the week. I paired it with the Niners. And a good question by Casey in the chat, and I'll answer this really quick before we get final thoughts on this game and move on. Most important thing when betting teasers, what's considered too many legs? Okay to mix and match sides with totals. I'll answer the last question first. Do not tease totals. There's no, I just don't see the value in it. I mean, I understand that maybe if it's a really low total game, how can this game not go over like a 30 something? I don't like teasing totals, and most bookmakers will say that. I think two is a sweet spot for me. You're not a huge teaser guy, right? Jim, do you do teasers at all?
I am. I like teasing favorites more. I will tease like a 2-point dog if it's a spot that I like, low total, like you said, where I'm like, okay, the team that they're facing is not an explosive offense. Which this game kind of
is that. This is that.
Yeah, 100%. It's like, or like Washington, it's like if the team that they're facing is not it has a low ceiling offense, then I'll tease the dog. Mostly though, I like to tease like a 7.5, 8-point favorite who I think I don't know if I trust their offense quite enough to count on them to win by double digits, but I do think that their defense is going to help them win this game outright. So I like teasing like bigger favorites who I love their defense, but don't necessarily trust their offense.
Jim, what are you 2-team, 3-team teasers?
I've had some bad experiences with teases this year. I'm trying to back away a little bit. What I'm famous for is the biggest upset of the day. That's usually the one I've teased. So
you teased the favorite.
So this week, So this
week, did it too. I was on the Bucs. We were on the Bucs last week on this show. So
remember Bills Jacksonville? We talked about that one. But I like what Andrew said. I'm big on. I'm starting to get into those 7-8 pointers, and I just let's get it down, let's get it away. So we just got to get that win.
I will say this: teasing a pick'em to 6 or 7, 1-7 or 7-1. That is a very, very impactful teaser. Because to me, for a team just to win the game that's supposed to win by over a touchdown or a touchdown and a hook, that is the most impactful teaser in a low total game. So those are the best spots to try to pick out if you are teasing games. Colts at Bills. This is a fascinating game. Market's been super split on this game too. I've seen it hover around 7 all week. Haven't seen it move much off of 7. If you're able to get 7 in the hook with the Colts, that's very good. I was surprised. I was surprised a little bit at the Bills' just aggression last week. I thought they were going to try to maybe ease back their offense, but they were just run and gun down the field, just blowing the Jets out. Jim, I'll start with you because you have an interesting touchdown prop in this game. Isaiah McKenzie getting a big fat number to score.
Well, that's what I liked about it. So they've actually, you're getting him on the returns too, punt and kickoff, which he had one called back earlier this year. He's a really good returner. But they've now incorporated him a little bit more. They had some red zone struggles against the better teams there, where their offense was struggling against Tennessee a little bit in the red zone early in that Monday night game. They're getting McKenzie involved in the red zone now, and he's really a headache because Josh Allen can run it in, and then they're doing some nice motions with McKenzie. They've targeted him. He's only been targeted 8 times this whole year, but 5 of them have come these last 2 weeks, and they're starting to get him more involved because they really wanted to change up their offense a little bit. So that I thought it was a good. I mean, plus 850 value if you want to throw in a
monster number.
If you're doing a prop parlay, you're having some fun with. Hey, if you're doing a mega O prop parlay, throw McKenzie in that prop parlay. But I do think the Bills. This game intrigues me so much. I am not a believer in the Colts.
It's a playoff rematch from last year too.
And I know, and this is going to be the Bills need to do. They've beaten up on the bad teams. They know it's time to show up against. Colts are certainly a good team. Can Wentz? This Bills defense is lights out. They've been great against.
Yeah, they really clamped down on the Jets last week.
So I want to see.
That was really the big surprise.
Wentz can't throw up those jump balls and hope for those pass interferences in this game. He's going to have to make some plays.
Over Wentz interceptions. Ayo, anything for you here? What are your thoughts on this one?
Yeah, I took the Colts plus 7.5 earlier in the week. You can check my Twitter. I tweeted it out on Monday or Sunday night.
Bro. I believe you.
So yeah, it's hard. It's hard to tell me to tell someone to take it at 7 when I took it at 7.5 5 days ago. But for a few, I'll tell you why I took the Colts in case that handy. Also, I see somebody, Josh in the chat says Knox anytime touchdown score plus 260. I actually kind of like that. I mean, before he got hurt, Knox was a touchdown scoring machine. I think he had 5 touchdowns in 4 games before he got hurt.
Yeah.
The Colts linebackers aren't that great in coverage. I mean, Darius Leonard, is really banged up, and he's not that much of a coverage guy anyways. He's really banged up. So I like that Knox prop a lot. I like the Colts just because it's like, I guess I get why Jim's skeptical of the Colts because they have played a pretty soft schedule. But the Bills have played an even softer schedule. Like the Bills, they beat the Chiefs. Credit to them. Earlier in the year when the Chiefs were playing awful, yes, they went into Arrowhead. It was a huge game for them, revenge game. They beat the Chiefs. You know who Buffalo's next best win is after the Chiefs? It's probably Washington.
Oh.
It's probably Washington.
No, it's
a toss-up between Washington and Miami. And so I think that they've played a really soft schedule too. The Colts, they're 5-2. Those 2 in their last 7. Those 2 losses were in overtime to the Ravens, overtime to the Titans, and they choked both of those games away with big leads. A couple balls bounced their way. The Colts are riding a 7-game win streak right now. Wow. I think that they're going to be able to run the ball a little bit. Again, the Bills' defense has been great. They haven't faced a running game like this. I think that Jonathan Taylor will have enough success to keep this one within 7.5. The Bills missing a couple guys on the O-line. They're missing John Feliciano still, and Spencer Brown now is on the COVID list. They're starting right tackle, the Bills guys that I trust. They love Spencer Brown. They say they're playing great. So I think that's a big absence as well.
Interesting. Weather. Jim, you're up there. What's going on up there in Buffalo right now?
Yeah, we could get some weather. That's certainly, but that won't affect I don't think that affects this game. I really don't.
Well, Josh Allen probably could play in a monsoon. The guy's got hands the size of my head.
Both teams, both Wentz can too.
Wentz has the big hands too. It's all about hand size, right? That's what they grade, right? That's what they look at, right? Right, Jim? You guys look at the hand size and you're grading these guys.
Sean Payton, when I was in New Orleans, that was something.
That was it.
That was big. It was big.
That's big, man. You got to have big hands to play quarterback in the NFL. 17 mile an hour, lots of rain. I mean, I'll be honest. The wind is more impactful than the rain, right? 100%. Yeah, not even close. All right, this game, I don't expect this game to be close. I think this will be the biggest blowout of the day, but I've been wrong on all the big favorites this year, so who freaking knows? Browns hosting the Lions. It's going to be Tim Boyle. And good luck finding tape on Tim Boyle, Jim, right? I mean, you're digging up in the wet. We played at like Eastern Kentucky or something. I don't know where he played in college, but good luck. He played like 2 snaps for the Packers a few years ago. I would expect the Browns to bounce back really strong in this game. I got 9.5 with Cleveland very early in the week before the Goff news. And obviously the market's moved in my favor. I don't know if I can suggest playing this at 13, but anyway, the Lions keep this game close. Jim, I'll start with you.
Yeah, if I tease the Browns down, the Lions will win. So that's one thing to pay attention to. But Goff hasn't done anything. I mean, he has been absolutely pathetic this year, like pathetic. So Anthony Lynn, the offensive coordinator for Detroit, I've worked with him in Buffalo. He is an incredible offensive mind as a coordinator. I am shocked how bad they look on offense.
They don't have any weapons, though.
And Dan Campbell tried to take away the play calling from Anthony Lynn. I don't think Anthony Lynn is the issue. I agree with you, Jared. I don't think they have any weapons on the outside. No, I don't see how. And Cleveland's been a disappointing team for me. I took them against Cincinnati when that couple weeks ago, but then they show up. They don't even show up last week. It's like, they should be built to destroy this Detroit team. Yes.
How about this, Ao? And I'll tee you up with this one. At FanDuel right now, the bet count split 50-50 on this game. That scares me. The Lions are basically a public dog in some regards. Anything for you here? Or are you crazy? Am I crazy to suggest laying 13? Can this be like a 3-touchdown split here?
That's funny you say that. I can't imagine that's going to happen too many times this year where the Lions will be around 50% of the bet splits. Actually, maybe last week too, because they were kind of somewhat trendy dog last week against the Steelers.
Split last week. Yeah, it was kind of split.
But see, I'm in the same boat as you. I took the Browns 9.5. That was another one that I hit right when it opened before the Goff news. And it's like one of those things where it's like I should be happy that the Lions moved to 13 and that Goff's not playing, but I'm not happy at all. Like I felt solid about my handicap with Goff out there. You know what he is. Tim Boyle, there's an unknown factor. Yeah. Tim Boyle might be much worse than which is hard to do, but he could be. He might be awful. He's never thrown a regular season pass. Wouldn't surprise me at all if the Lions get blanked here. but there's an unknown here. Like with Jared Goff, we know what we're getting. I knew he was not going to do squat. Now Tim Boyle could come in, have some kind of magic. Like Jim said, I think Anthony Lynn has been better than people give him credit for. I mean, it's mostly been Goff messing up. But yeah, the reason I liked the Browns at 9.5 was because, I was on the Lions last week. They got the tie. It's not like they played well. They didn't play well at all. I think Goff had like 70 yards. The Steelers just played almost as bad. The Steelers are just terrible.
Terrible. I agree.
So, yeah, so that's why I was on the Browns. But the Tim Boyle stuff worries me. I've gotten screwed a few times this year. I was on the Niners in the game when Colt McCoy started. I got the Niners as a dog, and they close a 5-point favorite against Colt McCoy, and they get blown out. Yeah, and I was on the Vikings as a dog against Cooper Rush, yes, and then they close like a 4-point favorite. I'm like, oh, awesome! I beat the line, and then I get so I anticipate that happening again. But we'll see.
We call that a CLV trophy, and it's worth $0. But it looks nice on your mantle. They look great on your mantle, but that's how much they're worth on your bankroll. All right, this is my least favorite / favorite game of the week. Dolphins at the Jets. I do some segments with some stations here in New York, and I got a lot of like mixed reaction with the Flacco news this week. Some of the people that I talked to that cover the Jets pretty exclusively said, hey, listen, I think it's a great move. They're giving the team the best chance to win. Other fans and other people that I talked to said, what are they thinking? Just give Mike White another start. Flacco's not the long-term answer. Why are you taking snaps away from a guy that you don't know fully yet what he is? So the market is kind of neutral on Flacco to White. It was 3.5. It really hasn't moved a whole lot off of that. I took the hook with the Jets, but I am not feeling good about it. Hey, I'll start with you here. What do we expect from Flacco this week? And on the other side, the Dolphins have had 10 days off since their big win. Is it a letdown spot for them?
Yeah, I don't want any part of this game personally. I thought about taking the Dolphins -3 earlier in the week, but I felt like chasing the steam with the Dolphins. The defense has played really well recently. I mean, the secondary has been phenomenal. Javon Holland, both their corners, Byron Jones, Xavier Howard, playing great. So I was leaning Dolphins, but it feels like a sucker spot to be laying points with Tua on the road against the Jets.
It's cold here in New York today.
To expect from
it's
Flacco.
cold. It's windy out there at the Meadowlands today. I walked outside this morning. It ain't nice. It's not sunshines and rainbows this morning.
And I agree with you 100%. I would have stuck with Mike White just because it's a lost season anyways. Who the hell cares? What do you have to gain with Joe Flacco on the street? But that's not what we're debating here. From a betting perspective, what's Joe Flacco going to look like? I don't know. Again, it wouldn't surprise me if he looks awful. I mean, against this blitz-heavy Dolphins defense with really talented guys in the secondary. But, I mean, Flacco was not that bad last time he was spot starting for the Jets. He looked much better than Sam Darnold, I believe. I believe it was like Darnold missed some games and Flacco came in. Yeah, it is a low bar, but playing better than Zach Wilson and Mike White did last week's low bar too. So that's why I went back and forth on this game. I was like, I'm staying away. I don't know, Jim, if you have any thoughts.
Under, Jim, is that – we got a question in the chat about the under. Is that something you would consider, or would you just play the side here?
You ask Andrew?
Yeah, no, Jim, go ahead.
No, I'm with Andrew on. I'm not playing this game. So yeah, go ahead and play the total all you want. And yeah, under sounds good to me because I'm with you. I don't understand this move by the Jets at all. It made no sense to me. What are you doing? Joe Douglas, the GM, I go way back with him.
Panic.
I don't get it.
Because they took Wilson second and all these other guys look great.
But what's the deal? What do you? I guess this is where it becomes hard. But are you dying to win this game? Like, is this what you're trying to do? Like, Joe Flacco can make us beat Miami, and this could turn our season around. I don't get it. I don't get it at all. I'm with you, Andrew. Like you said, what are you getting? Just ride Mike.
Well, Robert Saleh seems like the kind of guy who would be thinking like, yeah, we got to win this game. I mean, he's probably trying to win back the locker room. They've given up 40 plus. It does reek of desperation. It feels like
Flacco does nothing on the defense. He does not help the defense at all.
No.
Aside from throwing an interception and putting his defense in a bad position. But the mental side of it, and I'll be honest, I would think that losing the locker room would be more pumping up Mike White over the last 2 weeks, and the locker room loves Mike White. Mike effing White. I mean, that's what, it's like they love this guy. And then all of a sudden you pull the rug on him after 2 games, basically. One good, one bad against the Bengals and against the Bills. And I know the bad one was really bad. Don't get me wrong. It was really bad. But the Bengals one was really, really good. And the Colts was clearly an incomplete. He had one drive, and he looked really good on that one drive. Market is heavy towards Miami here. Well, we haven't seen the movement towards Miami, which makes sense because you can't lay more than 3.5 with Tua on the road. That's a bad bet long term. I think if I did, this was another one of my half unit plays this week. I took 3.5, 3 in the hook with the Jets, and I'll probably be ripping whatever's left of my hair come 1 o'clock Eastern, 1:30 Eastern, but we'll see. All right, the next game we're talking about here. This game's been, I think, been a really tough cap this week, which really sucks because I have 2 bets on it. So Ravens at Bears. I don't know what to make of the Lamar Jackson situation. I know he's sick. I get it, but he returned to practice on Friday, I think it was. And then yesterday we get the report from Schefter that it's 50-50. I mean, you better be really sick for it to be 50-50 with the cold or the flu. It's not COVID. That was confirmed. It's not COVID. It's, it's flu season. I get it. But Jim, you've been in the locker room with these guys. You talk to them when they're dealing with the nicks and the cuts and the bruises and the bumps and the sniffles. Lamar Jackson not playing today, 50-50, that's a coin flip. That tells me something else might be going on there.
It's strange. I agree. I hate that report. And I feel like Lamar Jackson has those reports like a couple times a year where he's not feeling great and it's not COVID.
Didn't he go to the bathroom that one game, the Monday night game, right? He ran back in the locker room that one time.
It's just the Ravens are just off to me this year. I can't figure them out. They're not that pass rushing defense that we're used to, which is the sure sign that you would get to just that's when you're scared to take the Bears, right? When they can't protect. We know that. But Baltimore can't rush the quarterback that well. So, yeah, and the way Fields has played lights out the last 2 games, like we talked about. I love everything I've seen from him. The Bears should be so excited if they had the right head coach. But Fields is not the problem in Chicago anymore. I'm excited. I'm really excited to see if he puts another game together today because now the Ravens' run defense is tough. And the Bears will they do want to run the ball. So that's going to be
the Steelers, though. And Montgomery had almost 5 yards of carry 2 weeks ago.
And the Bears seem to run the ball on everybody. It doesn't seem like
they ran it on the Rams in week 1. He had 100 plus.
Exactly. So I'm with you. I'm leaning Bears here.
Ayo, what do you think, bud?
Yeah, I liked the Ravens before this Lamar. I liked the Ravens because I felt like I was super impressed with Justin Fields on last Monday night against the Steelers, but I think the Steelers defense is worse than people think. I think that they've just been kind of coasting on reputation as the Steelers defense. We'll get to that when we talk Steelers Chargers, but it's just people see Steelers defense and still just assume it's the elite unit from last year and they lost a lot of guys. We'll get to that in the Chargers Steelers. But so I think that Justin Fields is going to have a little bit tougher of a time because it's not the Steelers defense anymore. And Allen Robinson now, who's played every snap this year, who hasn't been the Allen Robinson we all know and love, but he made a few big catches last week and Sunday, and he's still great to have out there, just to take some defensive attention away from Darnell Mooney, whatever. Allen Robinson's out. But the reason I actually liked the Ravens in this game before this Lamar stuff was because I'm really skeptical of the Bears defense. They've quietly been one of the worst units in the league. I think in terms of DVOA over the past month, you have the Jets at 32, obviously, and the Bears at 31. I mean, I was, again, really impressed by Justin Fields in that Monday night game. But arguably the bigger takeaway is that they gave up, 29 points to the Steelers and Ben Roethlisberger. I think that's the 5-alarm fire there. The Bears defense is, again, another one that's kind of coasting on reputation in the sense that people are just hear Bears defense and assume that it must be still at least an average unit when it's really been way below average. Akeem Hicks out for this one. He re-injured his ankle against the Steelers. Yeah, I don't know if Eddie Jackson's playing. I think he's questioned. I don't know if that'll probably be announced shortly. I think that's a big one. But so if Lamar was ready to roll, I was going to like the Ravens. Now, still no confirmation on if Lamar Jackson's playing or not. It is a weird situation. That's why I was curious, Jim, to hear your perspective.
Very weird situation.
You keep hearing non-COVID illness. I hear it in the NBA too, and I'm like Jared Allen, for example, center on the Cavs, just missed a week and a half, and I'm like, what kind of it must be an infection or something, because it can't just be a cold.
It can't be the sniffles.
These guys are extremely tough. I'm not questioning Lamar Jackson's toughness. He's far tougher than I am. So it must be something serious, but I'm just what could it be? If it's the flu, the flu only lasts a couple of days. This illness has been going on for a handful of days now. I don't know. What could it be?
Wednesday and Thursday, which means it had to happen. But even the thing, don't get me wrong. I know strep throat. You probably feel like you're on your ass for a couple of days. But man, this is an NFL game. You better be MJ food poisoning with the flu. Even he played in that game, and there's only so many NFL games in a season. So I don't know. Go ahead, Jim. What do you got?
Are we sure that was food poisoning?
I don't know. I don't want to get into that.
Sorry, I think
I
think it was a hangover from what I was watching on that. All right, go ahead. I'm sorry.
Very relevant to this game.
Sorry.
I grabbed. So if you read the column this week, the best bets column, I'm on the Bears plus 6.5. I got that early in the week, and I'm on the over 45. The total's dipped. It's below 44 now, and we talk about this a lot. Key numbers in the NFL. 44 is the second most landed on total in the NFL over the last 5+ years. So now that it's under 44 and it's 43 and a half, definitely like the over in that spot. Even now, if Lamar doesn't play, that obviously changes my mind. I think he's going to play. It's 10:30 Eastern now. We'll find out in an hour. I think he's going to play.
He talked to the media on Friday. Nobody ever talks to the media if they're not playing.
And if you're sick, you could hear it, right? Did he sound? I didn't listen to that interview. Did he look sick?
Sounded fine to me. Maybe a tiny bit, but he looked fine.
Do you think it's gamesmanship on the course?
That's what I was thinking.
Of John
Maybe
Harbaugh?
It's gamesmanship.
Harbaugh would be the one.
They did sign. They signed Trace McSorley from the practice squad.
It's my guy Trace, my Penn State guy.
Me too.
Love him.
Would they waste a roster? Would they go that far for gamesmanship, signing Trace off the practice squad? Maybe it sounds like there's a real chance he doesn't belong.
Our guy Alex Glaze is in the chat trying to win $500. Sorry, Alex, we're not going to pick your question there. But he wants to know if he should consider Bears money. This is like a double negative because Alex is a Ravens fan. No, Alex, don't bet Bears money line. You crazy? You root for your team.
Reverse jinx.
Reverse jinx. But
Respect.
if you're from an objective standpoint, yes, I think Bears money line. Because most times, 70-80% of the time, team that covers the spread wins the game. So if we think the Bears are going to cover the spread, absolutely plus 180. Not a bad money line bet. All right, most bet game of the week. Every bookmaker I talked to said you can basically, fill up an entire treasure chest of money bet on this game. Cowboys and Chiefs. Haven't seen the line move off of 2.5. I know the Amari Cooper news was impactful, but didn't move the line. I would still play the Chiefs. I know that their game. I don't have them as a play. I had them on my lean list. I took them off because I don't want to be on the public side here, but I don't know if it's really a public side. Let me see if I was checking this morning. Let's see if there's any more handle that are coming in on the Chiefs right now. Hold on. It looks pretty split, 50-50. Actually, a FanDuel, it's actually 60-40 ticket count on the Cowboys. But it's not that's really not a huge, split to one side. I'll start with you. I think it's going to be one of the more fascinating games of the week. I think the Chiefs are playing their best football of the season. Can they continue it against the very good Cowboys offense?
Yeah, again, this is another stay away one for me. I'm excited to watch. It's obviously could be the game of the week. I don't have anything on it. I will just pass along this nugget that I thought was interesting to anybody who's considering betting it. And I'm curious Jim's thoughts on this too. Obviously, I follow the NFL very, very closely. I bet on it. I'm doing pretty well. I don't claim to be an X's and O's guy because, I haven't worked in the game. But there are a lot of X's and O's guys that I do trust, and I'll pass along this nugget from shout out Nate Tice of The Athletic. I thought he made a very good point. The Chiefs' offensive success last week against the Raiders may have had something to do with the fact that the Raiders play a ton of single high coverage, which is obviously like the opposite of what everybody's been doing against the Chiefs this year. Has been playing like too high, making them be methodical, go down the field. The Raiders and Gus Bradley, they do not run too high. Gus Bradley does what he does. He runs the same variation of this cover three, single high every single time. And it's not in the playbook to switch it up, depending on opponent. So they didn't have the option of doing that. Now, obviously, Dan Quinn, the Cowboys defensive coordinator, comes from that same kind of Seahawks coaching tree, and he runs a lot of single high too, but he does mix stuff up a lot more than Gus Bradley is. So that's what Nate was pointing out and was saying. It would be very interesting to see if the Cowboys make those defensive adjustments and run a lot less. The Cowboys this year have been doing a lot they've been taking a lot of risks on defense.
Their defense numbers aren't good.
It's kind of
a ton of yards per play.
They're not great.
And they take a lot of risks, like Trevon Diggs. They let him kind of play that style of either it's a home run or it's either you give up a touchdown or you get an interception. That style is not what everybody else has been doing against the Chiefs with success. That's probably not what you want to do against the Chiefs. You don't want to take those risks because Mahomes will beat you. So I'm very interested to see whether the Cowboys switch up what they've been doing. If they switch up what they've been doing, I could see the Chiefs offense taking a step back because I think they were only that great last week because of the matchup. But this matchup could be potentially just as favorable if the Cowboys don't switch up what they've been doing.
Few things on this game, Jim, before I get to you. Great nuggets here on Justin by our producer Justin. 1-5 ATS. The Chiefs are teams over 500 this year, so they don't play well when they manage up. And Dallas 3-0 as a dog this year against the number. And, the total is really high in this game. I would not tease this game. The total is just astronomically high, over 56. Do you look at this game any differently based on what the Chiefs have done over the last 2 or 3 weeks? Or is this still a bad Chiefs defense that should get toasted up by a good Cowboys offense?
I'm going with that one, Jared. I'm not sold on this Chiefs defense at all. That Deshaun Jackson play last week, which I still don't understand. If that play was a normal human Deshaun Jackson play, that game looked like it was just going to start going back and forth. If you can't stop the run against the Dallas Cowboys, good luck. And that is the only reason I'm hesitant to say the Chiefs are back and they're this and that. I do like the way Mahomes was getting rid of the ball quicker, making fast decisions, dumping it off, not just trying to do the circus run around, trick throws. I'm with you on Dallas' secondary. Their numbers aren't that great. They're giving up a lot of yards. So yeah, for me though, if I play this game, I am going to play Dallas just because I love Dak. I love when they can run the ball. That travels, and I just want to see the Chiefs prove it to me a little bit more that you can handle a team that is going to beat you running the ball with a big time quarterback like that.
I was on the Chiefs in my mind, and I never really pulled the trigger. I'm just gonna sit back and watch this one.
Yeah.
In my mind, I was like, yeah, the Chiefs are playing really well, and I had a future on them. If you read the Back to the Futures column about 3 or 4 weeks ago, we grabbed them 16-1. I'm very content with that position. I don't think it'll get much lower than that. So I'm just gonna watch this one, and I'll root for Kansas City because we want the futures bet to keep gaining value, but no bet for me. A couple questions we want to get to in the chat. Really good questions. Joe Williams. Do you prefer to jump on a line early or wait till closer to kickoff in case there's a COVID issue or something else changes? I'll ask you on this one because you like to bet early just like me. We do the early birds every Sunday night. We'll do it again later tonight. The COVID stuff scares me, obviously, but I think the line value is more intriguing to me because I feel like more often than not, I'm going to be right on the market than I am going to be on the game. Does that make sense?
Yeah, 100%. I mean, the COVID stuff is it'll even out over time. Yes, exactly. You cannot predict it. You could get screwed sometimes. You will get lucky sometimes. And so I would not try and factor that into your handicapping. I like pouncing on lines early because that's how you get the value is really if you can beat that's how you're doing well as a bettor. Forget what your record is. It doesn't matter.
Totally
Throw your record out the window. One season even is not large enough sample size to really judge how you're doing as a handicapper. If you are consistently beating the closing numbers, you're going to win long term. And specifically, Joe, there are some spots where you can kind of, if you're debating, do I want to wait to bet this or do I want to take this? Think about the Colts this week. If you liked the Colts, it made sense to take it early in the week at 7.5 because I thought that it was going to move towards 7. But even if you're not sure, even if you have no idea, just thinking about it logically, if it moves a little bit in the Bills' favor and it goes to 8.5, that's not really that big of a deal. But if it is moving the other direction, 7.5 to 7 is a much bigger deal. So if you like a team that's getting a hook at around 7.5 or something, okay, 8, 9 aren't really key numbers. So if it does move against you, you don't really lose that much line value. But if you like that 7.5, you do not want to miss that going to 7. So it's getting a feel for it. As you bet more and more, as you start picking off lines earlier, you get a feel for where the stuff's going to go.
Agreed. Jim, are you an early bettor? What's your vibe there?
You know what? You put me onto that, Jared, this year. Just be on the shows and listening to you guys and Andrew. That makes so much sense to me, especially with that 7.5. Who cares if it goes?
Yeah, the 8, key numbers. It kind of the lines kind of magnetize towards those key numbers. And the longer you do it, you can kind of like I always tell this to people. I know where the market's going. I have no idea what's going to happen once the ball's kicked off. But I feel like I can predict the market very well.
Nobody
no idea what's going to happen when the ball gets kicked off. But the market, I have a pretty good feel of where it's going. So I agree. I think the key numbers and the early betting, especially if you're okay with, well, here's the other thing too. And there's a lot of recreational bettors out there that don't want their bankroll to be locked up for a whole week. We bet, I give you the bets on Sunday. They don't cash in my account till the following Sunday, or Saturday. So you have to have that money out of your account Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday when you want to be betting other things. So the bankroll part of it is what probably prevents a lot of the recreational bettors from betting early. But if your bankroll is not an issue, I think it makes sense. Really, another really great question here from Josh Helms. Jared, how does a recreational bettor get insight into public for sharp betting information? I mean, the really smart ass answer is watch our show. But the more not smart ass answer is there are websites that do show you splits. Actually, Fox does a good job of putting the splits on the site. which are fascinating to me because sometimes it's hard to really detect it. But I'll be honest, the recreational bettor, unless you're a market analyst, enthusiast, very hard to tell. Ao, anything you want to add there on, how you kind of detect some of that public and sharp movement?
Well, I think you had a good point on Twitter the other day. I think Jared was tweeting about it in the sense that, yeah, you can tell when it's sharp movement if the public is on one side, but the numbers moving the opposite way. I mean, there are other ways to tell, but that is the glaring, alarms ringing. It's like if the 85% of the bet splits are on one thing, but the line moves the other way, some respected money has come in on it. And again, I'll steal your point, Jared, because you teed me up. Jared tweeted this the other day. It's 100% true. It's not about the size of the bet. It's about the bettor. If some billionaire who has nothing to do with sports or anything wants to throw $1 million, at the MGM Grand on a football game, they will take his money, but they are not going to care, move it one way or the other. It doesn't matter. But if a group bets a moderate 5 figures, $20,000 on something
could be
that's really respected money,
it doesn't matter what it is. It's just it's the person, 100%.
100%.
Good stuff, Jim. Are you involved or invested at all with the movement? I feel like because of your experience, you have a little bit more insider knowledge where the sharps, you kind of are a football sharp with your brain, maybe not on the gambling side, but the way that you think through the game. So I would take your information and apply it to some of these public sharp splits.
No, but I learned this a long time ago with I've always, been in gambling. Knowing football doesn't matter in gambling either. And
interesting.
The Miami-Baltimore Thursday night game was right. Everything that you guys were talking about, where everybody was on Baltimore, that line wasn't moving. And that gave me the listening to you guys this year, that gave me the confidence to take Miami. That's what I did. That's the only reason I did it, because it made no sense.
Love it. Great stuff. We do have an update on Lamar Jackson. Quote, not really himself arriving at the stadium. I don't know what that means. Is there another issue with him? Is he sick in a non-flu way? Because we've seen it with him in a few spots where he's looked a little bit funky, I guess, is the word that I get. If I had to use an adjective to describe what Ian Rappaport's saying, not quite himself. He looks a little funky. I don't know. Really, really tough to bet on. And of course, I have 2 bets on this game, so I'm going to be just sweating them both out towards the end. But really, really tough to detect what that means.
No.
Maybe they start Lamar and he doesn't finish the game. Maybe it's the stamina that will be the issue today and not the fact. I have no idea. Let's just leave it at this. If you haven't bet the Bears-Ravens game yet, I wouldn't. I would stay away. Maybe live bet it. Ao, what are your final thoughts on that news from Andrew Rappaport?
Yeah, I guess I hope Lamar is well, because it must be serious, because the Ravens need this game like blood. This is not a situation where it's like the Cardinals were 8-1 and okay, we can be cautious with Kyler Murray. We're sitting pretty. It's like the Ravens need this game.
Right.
So it must be
all
serious.
All 3 of those teams in the North, they're right there. Browns, Steelers, Bengals, they're right there.
If he doesn't play, I just hope Trace gets into the game. I kind of hope Tyler Huntley stinks, because I would love to see Trace get a real NFL action. That's my final thought.
Interesting. All right. Final game we'll talk about here. Steelers-Chargers. This is a tough game to cap, too. The Steelers have their whole defense. We'll say
actually, final thought. I just saw the Ravens-Bears line is now down to 3.5, which kind of at FanDuel it's 3.5.
He's not playing.
So that kind of tells you the market sounds like they are not expecting Lamar to play, which sucks, because I did bet the Ravens earlier in the week. So go figure.
Well,
can't win them all.
You could still sell it and give up the juice there. I don't know.
I get middle. The Ravens would win by 4.
No, you can sell Raven. You can bet it. Just give up half of the unit and only be down half a unit.
I'm riding with Tyler Huntley. Screw it.
Tyler Huntley, why not? I mean, stranger things have happened in the NFL this year, so you never know. Speaking of stranger things, not the show, which, by the way, I'm excited. I think there's a new season coming out soon. I don't know if you guys are Stranger Things fan, but Andrew Ortenberger, my friend, Chargers laying 6 now. You still like this one with Pittsburgh? Is this the Mike Tomlin rowdy rah-rah spot? I saw this line move off of 3, AO. Now it's 6. I'll be honest. I really like this Chargers team, but what's going on the last couple of weeks? All of a sudden, Brandon Staley's like a conservative coach, going for punting when he should be going for it. What's your cap here this week with all these guys out for Pittsburgh?
Yeah, I took the Chargers -4 because I was anticipating I was going COVID issues could get worse. I still kind of like it at 6. Like normally I would like not tell somebody to take something like whatever. I'll have egg on my face because the Chargers usually are a team that I like to take as a dog. They play in a ton of close games. The Chargers are not usually a team I would want to lay a lot of points with because no matter what the situation is, the Chargers always seem to end up playing in like a 3-point game one way or the other, and it becomes an incredible series of events. That being said, on paper, I do not see why this one should be close. I've been holding this in the whole show. I'm not just a Steelers skeptic. I think I'll be bold. I think at 5-3-1, yeah, they're 5-3-1. I think 5-3-1 Steelers are one of the worst teams in the league. I would go so far as to say because they have one of the worst offenses in the league, certainly, and I think their defense is average at best. Like they have a terrible offense, in my opinion, and a middling defense. I think
now their whole defense is out. Watt, Fitzpatrick,
exactly,
like the whole squad's out today.
They had already average offense. If you look at all their actual metrics, again, they're coasting on reputation. They lost a bunch of guys last year. Obviously, Bud Dupree, Stephon Tuitzau. They lost a couple of guys in the secondary. They let walk, and they did virtually nothing to replace any of these guys. And now the 3 most important players probably that they have left on defense, TJ Watt, Joe Hayden, Minkah Fitzpatrick, are all not playing here. If the Chargers do not have some success on offense, they need to fire Lombardi after the game because this is the spot of all spots. They need to let him air it out. The best explanation that I've seen for why the Chargers have kind of been struggling a little bit. They had a great game against Philly 2 weeks ago, but last week against the Vikings the week before. One, I think the Vikings defense, tip your cap to Mike Zimmer, just had a really good plan. And I think the Vikings defense is a lot better than people give it credit for. They're starting to get a bit healthier in the secondary.
I agree.
But the issue has apparently been that the Chargers don't trust their protections that much, even though they have a lot better talent on the offensive line now. They apparently don't trust their protections that much. They're forcing this quick game stuff. But without TJ Watt here, I don't see the Steelers pass rush being that much of an issue. I really think that they should let him air it out, get Mike Williams back involved. He's been quiet now after the huge start. And then on the flip side, the Chargers defense, yes, has it been a little susceptible to the run at times. They've been tightening that up, though. And Ben Roethlisberger, Mason Rudolph, I don't care. They're one and the same. They both stink. This should be a blowout on paper. The Chargers will find a way to charger it up, but it's not even close in terms of the talent, in my opinion.
Jim, what do you think, bud?
I'm with Andrew 100%. I can't figure out the Steelers. I think every week I say they can't run the ball, they can't throw the ball, they can't stop the run, and they win with 10 points. They throw for 100 yards.
They lost to the Bears. I'm still mad about that game.
I am over the Steelers. Andrew, I 100% agree. Joe Lombardi, I go way back with him. I worked with him in New Orleans.
Yeah.
Follow him in Detroit when he was the offensive coordinator with Stafford. Yards per attempt were terrible in the 20s, and they're 17th right now in yards per attempt. They need to do, Andrew, what you were saying. They got to throw the ball down the field, especially to Mike Williams. I'm with you. I'm kind of excited. This is a good Charger game, I think. It's time for them to open up a little bit.
It's time.
Yeah.
Total, people want to know over under 47.5. I'll say this is going to be a home game almost for Pittsburgh. Maybe not home, but neutral site, 50-50 probably, maybe 60-40 Pittsburgh. I mean, the Steelers fans, other than maybe Green Bay and Dallas, I would say travel better than any fan base does in the league.
Yeah.
All right, Pickswise Nation, we're going to have some questions here. What is the best time to hedge your bet? Matt Brown, this is a good question. What is the best time to hedge your bet with futures? If they're still alive coming down in the end, you can hedge, make some profit. What other opportunities you look for when hedging? Personally, I like to hedge. I like to buy and sell. I did this in the Heisman market this year, and I netted like 2 or 3 units just by buying low, selling high on guys like Corral and Caleb Williams. Winning a futures bet's really hard to do, especially a 10, 20, 30 to 1 futures bet. That's why they're long odds. So when you can take profit and you could reassess and recalibrate, I do it. I don't think there's a set number or a threshold for me. It's just how I'm feeling. And also, if I see an opportunity that if I think that the future of that bet is looking negative, trending negative, I will hit the cash. There's nothing ever wrong with ringing the cash register and taking a profit, no matter how small it is. I do that. Ayo, what's your thoughts on hedging futures bets?
It's probably something I should do more often, but I'm like I get stars in my eyes. I want to see the big payday. Specifically, my futures. I go for the long shots. You know, I'm a sucker for the long shot, the darlings, Cinderella story. The futures bets that I actually like in the NFL specifically, I think division long shots make some sense in the NFL because there's just so much year-to-year variance that it's like I will
Totally
almost
agree.
take any team blindly. Catch it. I was on Washington last year, 30-1 to win the NFC East. And that's just the stuff that can happen in the NFL. They can go 7-9 and win the division because the rest of the division stinks. This year, I took two long shots. I took the Jets at 30-1 just because someone I know is a Jets fan. I wanted to place for them, and I took the Bengals at 25-1. And obviously, the Jets one was dead and buried after the first week. The Bengals is very much alive. That was 25-1. I was like, there is a plausible path to success here. There's enough variance in these NFL that I will almost take any division long shot at that price.
Jim, are you a big futures better? What's your situation there?
The only thing I get futures drive me crazy because you're one injury away in football to a quarterback. That's the only reason I struggle with. I'm just talking about football with the quarterback. Yeah, that's the only reason.
Very tough. And this is another question that I would have asked if I was in the chat today. I don't handicap injuries, frankly, because you don't know. You have no idea.
No idea.
You have no idea, and they could be positive, they could be negative. The reason that I really like the futures market in gambling is because, and you've seen this year, individual games, good luck. One bounce of the ball in any direction, and that's it. You lose. The futures market is meant to capture the long term, which over time tends to be more true than a single game random event. Right. Especially in baseball, NBA, NHL, when the seasons are super long, I feel better that over time, my handicap will be proved correct. Whereas in one game, anything can happen. That's just my personal preference with the futures market. I have a financial background. I like to buy and sell. I like to day trade. All of those things are all kind of in the same sphere of futures betting. All right, we have one more question from the chat, and Jim, I will direct this one at you. We didn't talk about this Vikings-Packers game, big pros versus Joe's game, and everyone's on the Packers, but the Vikings lines moved in the direction. I did see the note about Aaron Rodgers' toe, which, speaking of injuries, I would say that's pretty impactful. But people want to know if, Jim, you're going to be backing your boy Kirk Cousins again.
Kirk and I have a long history, Andrew.
Really?
Yeah.
AO's guy. This is like the two Vikings guys I got in the show today with
Huge
you guys,
Vikings.
man.
Yeah, I'm good with. I am taking Kirk today. Once again, It's not in prime time. We didn't even really talk. This is a great game today. We're not talking about for the Vikings to really get themselves back in the mix. You know, for their defense is getting healthy and playing better. Zimmer is I trust. I'm going to give Zimmer. I respect him as a defensive coach. So yes, I think this is a good spot to take the Vikings today.
Hey, what do you think on your Vikes? We've gone back and forth about these many late night chats about the Vikings between you and I.
I think the Vikings are reverse Steelers. It's like the Steelers are like, how the hell are they 5-3-1? It's like the Vikings are like 4-5, but it's like they should be winning every single week. It's like they lose. They find new ways to lose every week.
Yes.
I think they're reverse Steelers. They should be way better than 4-5. I was debating taking the Vikings all week. I think I'm going to do it. I haven't bet it yet. I think after we get off the show, I am. The toe is the final push me over the edge. It seems like the kind of turf toe thing. It seems like the kind of thing that like Phillip Rivers, my guy, was playing with the Colts last year. It's like you get that turf toe as a quarterback and you can play through it, but then you play through it the whole season and you're kind of like limping around out there. It doesn't affect a guy like Phillip Rivers who's just a pure pocket. He's not going anywhere anyways. A guy like Aaron Rodgers who kind of likes to dance around, likes to scramble, even at his relatively advanced age, is still pretty mobile. That actually could hinder him more significantly. So I'm curious to see. I might bet the Vikings as soon as we get off here.
So I think this is actually a great teaser spot. Getting the Vikings. I see 1.5 on DraftKings right now, 1.5 to 7.5. And the total is slightly elevated at 47, but it's not to the point where over 50, that's when I'd be more, hesitant to play a teaser. I think the total's kind of, at the higher end of the range where I feel good about playing a teaser. So I think the Vikings as a teaser leg is a really good spot today. Over under in the Bengals Raiders game. That's another question we got, 50.5. I like this over early in the week, and I got some notes from bookmakers that pushed me off because they said that they think the Raiders are going to really try to establish the run this week. Obviously, no Ruggs. Obviously, they've been going through some tumult off the field. And the running game still with Jacobs and that offensive line is still relatively strong. And that's why I didn't play the total, because it is pretty high at 50.5. It's still below that key number of 51, which is the most landed on total in the NFL over the last 5 years. Ayo, any thoughts on the Bengals-Raiders total for you?
I was going to say, you know what? Like the sure sign for me that I have to stay away is when I feel like I can make a compelling case for both sides. And it's like, I feel like I can make a decent case for the Bengals, a decent case for the Raiders, a decent case for the over, and a decent case for the under. So, so I want absolutely no part of the
toss-up game.
Yeah, I want absolutely no part. Because on the one hand, I was thinking, it's like, wow, is this line seems a tiny bit off that the Bengals would be a road favorite over the Raiders. It feels like a little bit of an overreaction just because the Raiders have lost these past 2 weeks to the Chiefs, and then they had that letdown against the Giants on the road. So that feels like a little bit of an overreaction, but I'm certainly not trying to back the Raiders right now. I think the Bengals are another team they're both teams that are coming off two of their worst performances of the year. You know, the Bengals have looked really bad their last couple of times out. So have the Raiders. So it's a stay away spot for me.
Jim, any thoughts before we get to plays of the day?
No, I like what Andrew said. This game, you could picture this going any which way. For me, I'm staying away from that total.
I agree. All right, plays of the day. Actually, it's funny because, Ayo, you're on the show here, but you have another play of the day that you're not talking about on the show that I'll give you out on the Pickswise site. You're on the G-Men. The G-Men getting 10 in the hook. That's tomorrow night. So we didn't talk about the Monday night game, but, Ayo, you do have a 3-star play on the Giants getting 10.5 tomorrow. Would you like to quickly, describe that for our audience?
Yeah, it was 11 when I wrote it. I would call it 11.
That's fair.
But I'm a Giants guy. I mean, Danny Dimes just hits different on the road, man. Daniel Jones on the road. I think I'm not a big trends guy. Daniel Jones, though, in his career as a road underdog is 11-3 against the spread. His yards per attempt this year are like 8.2 on the road, 6.3 at home. It's a real, and this is going back to last season and even the season before. Like, it seems like a real thing. He genuinely does play better on the road. And I'm just like a little bit of a Bucs skeptic on their defense. I think obviously the secondary has been decimated by injuries. It's like they're trotting out a really old on the back nine of his career, Richard Sherman, and now he's hurt. And like I alluded to earlier, they're starting guys like Pierre Desir, Jamel. There's another one. D. Delaney, like random, vets off the street. One of the only studs left on the defense unscathed was Vita Vea, who's now injured himself and is now, I believe he's out. So I think the Giants are getting back to Saquon Barkley. The Giants may finally be able to run the ball with no Vita Vea against the Buccaneers. And I think certainly they'll have some success throwing the ball. And I don't think that Brady is going to do enough here to cover 11 by himself. If you look at the game these teams played last year, the Giants lost by 2. They had a lot of chances to win that game. And Patrick Graham, the Giants defensive coordinator, had a really good game plan for Tom Brady. We talked about familiarity earlier in this show. We talked about how Bill Belichick kind of was able to slow down Tom Brady. Guess who else was in New England with Tom Brady for a long time? Joe Judge and Patrick Graham were both there. And they had a good game plan for him in this game last year. So I think they would do enough to keep this within 10 single digits.
Stuff. All right, don't forget, we're giving away $500 in just a few moments. So you have a few more minutes or a few more moments to get some good questions in. And now let's get into our plays of the day. I'll go first. This has been my favorite play all week. We didn't talk about this game, but I get a chance to talk about it now, and I'm super excited about it. The Titans are the best team in the NFL, right? Here are the teams they've beaten over the last 5 weeks: Buffalo, KC, Indy, Rams, Saints. Next week, Mike Vrabel goes to New England in a return spot. This is like the ultimate sandwich game against the Texans, who, by the way, are coming off the bye. Noteworthy, this does not help my handicap, but teams coming off the bye are 5-11 ATS this season. Bookmakers we talked to this week, too small of a sample size, but certainly something to look at as we get the Bears and the Texans. I'm betting them both off buys this week. Good for me, right?
I'm betting Giants.
And the Giants too. Everybody's on Tennessee. This is the Pros Joe's game of the week. Everybody's back in the Titans. Lines moved to 10. Now I see 9.5. This is reverse line movement at its finest. Raise the alarm. I got 10 in the hook. I would still play it at 9 in the hook. I would rather have 10. Obviously, it's a key number. But I'm on the Texans this week. I gave it out as the top play in the Cappers contest. It's my top play. I put 1.5 units on it in the column. And I'm hoping that Tyrod Taylor's healthy and the Texans come out a little bit inspired after, a 8-game losing streak that they're on. So that's where I'm at this week. Texans plus 10.5. Jim, what do you got? Play of the day, bud.
I'm going Ron Rivera and the Washington football team. If you can't beat Cam Newton, he's been there for 1 week. 1 week. Ron Rivera, Jack Del Rio, defensive coordinator, veteran coaches, please show up and prove to me that you can beat a quarterback that's been with a team for 1 week. I know that's X and O stuff that you hate, Jared.
I love the X's and O's stuff. No,
I know, but I'm just saying, I'm really going.
I used to play quarterback in high school, man. I can read a defense too, bud.
You wore number 11, didn't you?
You got it, bud.
I watched the show. But anyway, I do think Washington can. Besides that, I think they'll make it hard. I think they're going to make Cam throw the ball to beat him, and I don't think Cam's capable of throwing the ball.
It's going to be a fascinating game. All right, AO, play of the day. I know you got one tomorrow. Play of today. What do you got?
I like, again, this is another one where it's tough. It's like I tweeted it. I sent it to Jack last night or earlier when it was 47.5, the under in this Seahawks Cardinals game. It's 45.5. I feel it was 48.5 earlier in the week. Obviously, it looks like Kyler's not going to play. I would still honestly lean towards it at 45.5. Look, Russ got shut out last week by the Packers, and everybody's talking about, okay, he was coming off the finger issue. Yes. The Seahawks offense was struggling before Russ got hurt. I mean, the Rams game where he got hurt, they looked really, really bad before that happened. I think teams' defenses have kind of wisened up to the fact Russ does not throw over the middle of the field. They only throw to the outside, and they just try and hit deep shots like DK and Tyler Lockett. So if I was Vance Joseph, who's been doing a very good job this year with the Cardinals defense, I'd say we're going to put safety 60,000 yards down the field, and we're going to make you beat us underneath, which the Seahawks haven't been able to do. And on the flip side, Colt McCoy had one decent game against the 49ers, but really the 49ers defense just shat the bed in that game. They couldn't tackle anybody. The Cardinals, Colt McCoy was not out there slinging the ball, making the throws. And then look what happened last week when he faced real defense in the Panthers. He came crashing down to earth. The Cardinals offense was abysmal. Still no DeAndre Hopkins. The Seahawks defense has been playing pretty well recently. That's the bad part for Seahawks fans. It's like the defense finally starts playing well, and now Russ falls off a cliff. I think at Russ's advanced age, his scrambling ability is just not the same as it was. He can still move. He's not a statue in the pocket, but he is not dynamic anymore. He is not just making this season. He's not making those splash Russell Wilson scramble around for 12 seconds, dodge a million. He's just not doing that, and that really limits the ceiling of their offense. So I think this is going to be a very low-scoring game.
Interesting. I'll be honest. That's a tough game to pick because I think Arizona might be the best. I think Kingsbury might be the coach of the year in the NFL. And all things point to Seattle bouncing back, but man, something's off with Carroll, and it's getting weird, right, Jim? It's getting weird there with Seattle. I don't know what it's getting late early, as Yogi Berra would say, for Russell Wilson.
Agreed.
Fascinating stuff. All right, we do have a $500 giveaway. I feel like I'm like the Academy Award like presenter.
Yeah,
like I get
game show host.
And the envelope, please. Mm-hmm. Matt Brott, congratulations. 500 bones, man. That's a great way to start your Sunday, bud. Congrats. Great questions by everyone in the chat. I apologize if we didn't get to all of them. Feel free to reach out to me on Twitter. I'll try my best to answer as many of them as I can, the ones that we didn't get to. I think this interaction that we do is awesome because there's so many good questions and there's so many, tough questions with gambling. The mental side of it is, as you know, Jim, this is what I specialize in this, man. It's my favorite part. The mental side of gambling is so huge. So ask away, keep interacting with us in the chat, keep subscribing to the YouTube channel, keep going to the app, going to the website, get involved with the cappers. They do tremendous work. They work their tails off every day to get you guys the best information possible. And this has been a tremendous show. Andrew Ortenberg, Jim Monis, I'm Jared Smith. Thanks for watching Let's Bet It. Good luck, cash some tickets, and don't sweat too much. It's cold outside here in the north, so maybe walk outside, take a lap if you're sweating too much, but enjoy the day.